we are on page Yud, as we are used to being. And the second section is about 15 lines from the top. The line begins with the word HaMachshava, VeHaMachshava. So we already discussed the Indian for Machshava and Dibur. And Gimel Yishonis and Gimel Achrein is the top 3 spheres and the lower 6 spheres. And we distinguish these 2 sets by saying that the top set is Le'atzmai, is for himself. The lower set is Bishvil Ha'ilamish, or in terms of Kochas HaNefesh, a Machshava and Dibur. Machshava is Le'atzmai and Dibur is a Losif, is for someone else. And then we went a step deeper, and we said that Dibur is also Le'atzmai. He's also an internal, and also, so to speak, for himself, Le'atzmai. But it's Le'atzmai B'shvil Azulas. In order to be able to transmit what he has to the Zulas, he has Dibur, internal Dibur.
What's the exact translation of Zulas?
What?
What's the exact translation of Zulas?
Zulas, the other person. Zulas means someone besides yourself. That's a Zulas. We explained a very important principle, which we are going to get into now even more. Why does he have this step? Why is he interested in Dibur B'shvil Hazulas for an external purpose?
Oh.
So
the line starts with Machshava, I couldn't find it.
now you can find it?
Oh, okay.
You got it. We explained from our perspective, at our level, in terms of Kochas HaNefesh, Machshava with Dibur. We explained that Dibur, this coming out of himself to someone else, is really representing and identifying himself to the fullest. Because a person does not exist in the world by his own design. He did not bring himself into the world. He was brought into the world. And in bringing him into the world, the plan was that he would be a participant in the world, and he would be effective in the world. Therefore, this being affected in the world is really a very important part, an essential part of the design of what a human being is. This is why we say it is for himself in order to transmit to others. Because transmitting to others is an essential reality in himself. Now let's learn inside the way it is l'mayla. V'machshava hu hagilui yatzmi. Machshava is the gilui to himself. We explained yesterday with an extended mashal of the table, quote unquote. What does it mean, gilui? Gilui. There is an essential principle, and then when this principle comes in the gilui, means it acquires all the ingredients that allows us to stand on its own. A table, as we said, is a concept within the human being himself. But in order for this table to actually materialize and be real, and identify the human being in the world with this table, then this table has to have a dimension, a form, and it has to have materials of which it's made, and it has to have 4 legs. It has to be a means to stand on its own. It cannot be standing because in his mind he has to stand. This is how the gilui. It reveals that which is defined in himself, but now it reveals it and gives it a full design. When a person conceptualizes a table, even in himself, the concept is that the table should stand on its own, and it shouldn't have to hold it up. But there he's not concerned. How is it going to stand? It stands because I want it to stand. But that has not yet been. That's before it's revealed, fully revealed. Let's take it a step further. When one says it'll stand because I want it to stand, inherent in that thought, because I want it to stand, is that there is a possibility in the world to make it stand. I don't know what the possibility is as yet. But definitely the world allows for it. Because the world accommodates my wishes completely.
What's that mean?
That means that if I further identify how the table fits into the world, it'll stand. I'll make it stand. The world provides for the means by which to make it stand. Such as 4 legs. Okay, since you asked what does that mean, I want to elaborate on this a little bit. You stand up at a table. Yes, we conceive of how it's going to stand. But how do we in fact build it? We make all kinds of different attempts. We test our concept. Is it going to work? Is this going to work? All the concepts are valid concepts, but how do they actually fit and accommodate?
To remain on this call, press 1.
By the world? I forget. That.
Your calling party disconnected. Your balance is $0.01. Your next payment is due before 109 days.
Okay. Yes, indeed, it is a concept in the person's mind, but this concept is actualized when it is being applied in the world itself. How does one really design a table? He attempts to make it stand, and then it limps and it shakes until he finds the right way to do it.
Right. Not every conception is going to be actualized. What's the point here?
That's not true.
If
it's not going to be actualized, then it's not a valid concept.
Right, but it's not a valid concept. Wanting it or conceptualizing doesn't make it valid.
What?
Having a concept doesn't make it that it's going to be actual.
If it is, we are explaining what is a concept. A concept, where is the source of the concept? Concept is not wishful thinking. A concept is representative of what the reality of the human being is. And if this is real, then it can actualize. It can be actualized. It's not what's called science fiction. It's something real in human life.
Okay.
And this is what Gilui. Gilui means Gilui means that it actually comes to fruition. The concept comes to fruition. It reveals what was the basis of this concept. Oh, there is a real basis where I can make it happen. This is where it goes into machshava. When it comes into machshava, then it has machshava means that it has a place in the world. Yet still, gam bechinas idiyas atzmoi, also and even that bechina, that aspect, what's called idiyas atzmoi, knowing himself. He bishvil hayishtal shalos, knowing himself in real truth is also bishvil hayishtal shalos. It is for the sake of the ishtal shalos, of creation. Machshava is knowing himself. What is the purpose and what initiates this process of coming into machshava? It is machshava brings his knowledge of himself to himself, but it is bishvil hashal for the sake of ishtal. And here is the classic question that we're all waiting for. The behold. Apparently, means superficially, at first glance. We can't understand. It's not understandable. Since that this is only to reveal that which is contained internally to himself, in himself, the essential containment, to himself. Thus, the question is, if so, for what purpose was that brought forth? It is to reveal it to himself. So what's the purpose of it? Since that to him, to himself, it is known gam koydem shenetza. It is known even before it has come to emanation. So what's the purpose? What's the sense of it being emanating such a function, such a quality, that to be able to reveal it to himself? Is Yodua Gam Kedim Shenetza. It is known even before it is Netza. This principle that le'atzmusi is but it is known even kedem shenatzel before the emanation of knowledge, of machshov. This we have to understand very clearly. Again, you're coming back to the human being. Everything that a human being identifies ultimately, everything that he ultimately learns to relate to, that ultimately he learns to relate to, and it becomes, so to speak, an obvious truth. All of that was initially known in his nefesh, in his soul. But we say it still needs to be revealed. Like we said before in the example of the table. To reveal the etzem to the table, you have to actually go to trial and trial and error and figure out how to make a table stand in the world. But yet we say clearly that the concept of the table is not a fictional concept. It's not an imaginary thing. It is a concept that is formed in the nefesh because of its reality. What's the reality that the nefesh senses? The nefesh knows, in its essence, what is its designed by the Creator. And thus all the concepts that transpire in the nefesh, they transpire on that platform, in that sense of how this is real in the world. Because that is what it is, its essential concept is, creation is for. So, in the nefesh itself, it is known that these are all doable, definitely doable things. Not only doable, but they're real. Except, from a world, from an external view, it still needs to be revealed. But internally it is known without any question. And the proof for that is, as I always point out, that when a person does meet up with a table, he's not shocked, oh wow, where does this come from? He immediately acclimates to it. And he fits in with it perfectly. Does not feel he's in a different reality, in a different world. He is absolutely in his own reality and in his world. Because this was already preconceived in his nefesh. But it's not called knowledge in a gilui form, but in an essential form, in essence. This is what he says, that le'atzmei, it is known before the quality of chokhmah and knowledge has been identified. Because everything in Atzmos is real. There is no. So therefore, for what purpose is the Netzal, is the emanation of these qualities that make it known to himself in a knowledge level, begil. However, the principle is the big day that in order that there should be such a presence, that's called the quality of chokhmah, the aspects of chokhmah. Shagam zulose yuchal havino, such a mitzvah of chokhmah that even an outsider would be able to ultimately understand that chokhmah. For that purpose, it was necessary that it should emanate first Metzius Shem Chochmah. The Metzius, the presence of Shem Chochmah. Shem means the name of Chochmah. The principle of a name, we already discussed many times. A name is that which identifies something exclusively, in isolation to everything else. It gives it a real presence. Why do you name? You name something that can be isolated from everything else, and you can pinpoint what this is. The name Chochmah had to emanate. Because the knowledge prior to Chochmah is an inherent knowledge, an internal knowledge. It is not knowledge that's called knowledge per se. I automatically know. Because of what I am, I know everything. But knowledge per se, if you want to transmit it to someone else, you have to identify it individually, the principle of knowledge. Strip it of the entire basis for this knowledge. That's why he says, "Oh, you need Netzal Tchilo Metzias Shem Chochmah." Had to emanate first the Metzias Shem Chochmah, the term Chochmah. From within the labyrinth and the infinite labyrinth of everything that's in Atzmus, you have to identify Chochmah per se and give it a name.
Can I ask something?
Okay.
Well, when in this context, when we say identify Chochmah, means to sort it out. What does it mean, identify Chochmah? To sort it out from something else, from everything else, and give it a separate...
Shlomo, I'd like you to think with me. We have a home. And we say a home consists and contains in numerous entities, individual entities. And we say the reason there's a table in the home is because it's a home. Table belongs in the home. The reason there's a chair in the home is because it's a home. A chair belongs in the home. All of these things belong in that place, in the home. So therefore, it is entirely correct to say, all I'm looking at is I'm looking at the home. Not looking at the table, not looking at it, because a table in isolation outside of the home is not a table. A chair in outside of the home is not a chair. as we discussed many times. So why you call it a table and chair? Call it a home. The answer is, in order to explain what a table is to someone else, you have to, within the reality, your own reality, identify the name table. For yourself, you don't need to do it, because it's all to you. It's all part of being of a home. But in order to explain to someone else what is a table, or what is, something that is useful and so forth, you have to identify to yourself also individually. Although by you individually, it is not an entity, an individual entity. It is part of the reality of the home. This is the pshat Mitzir Shem Chochma. I'm sorry, what?
It's just background noise.
What?
He wasn't.
That's fine.
Okay, Baruch Hashem.
I'm saying
Mitzir Shem Chochma had to be netzal. Netzal means had to emanate. It is not created because it exists internally, but it was netzal. It emanated to be identified as such. That's called Atzilus. That's why Atzilus is part of Ein Sof, of Ein Sof. It's not a creation. It doesn't stand on its own. It is part of Elokus. But it is Netzal. It be identified as Mitzir Shem Chochma. You're able to focus in, this has a name. Although this unit does not stand on its own, so to speak, it has a name within the total reality, within the Elokus.
Is it the same as the original concept of a table? Not Atzilus.
It is. I don't understand what the question is. I don't understand your question.
If it's like the original.
Let me ask you
concept
something before you ask the
of a
question.
human being of the
Let me ask you a question. Please, let's stay focused. This question bothers you, or you just projecting a question? Let me explain to what I'm pointing to. Questions have to emanate, have to come emanating from the reality that we're discussing, not from outside.
It's not a question. I want to know if I understand it clearly.
Okay, go ahead.
If Atzilus is like the original concept of a table and a human being, before it comes into Chochmah, the first concept.
Atzilus is the emanation as it comes from Ein Sof. It exists in Ein Sof. So what's the point of Atzilus? Atzilus is when it gives everything a name. Within Ein Sof there is a name of Chochmah and Bina and Das and so forth. What's the point? It's already there. The answer is, as we're going to see, neither in order to be able to further identify it in world, in Ishtalshalos. And we said many, many times, a table originates from a home, and it can only fully be identified within a home. Outside of the home, it's not really a table. And yet we can know about it outside of the home, because we have given it a name. Have given it a form. But with this form, it only has its title when it is within a home. the difficulty that we're having in understanding this subtlety is this. We're creating something, a table. If you created it, now it exists on its own. Yes, it exists, but its existence, even its own existence as an entity, is still dependent on its source. It doesn't become an entity without the source. So is it created or not created? The answer is it was created. This is called emanation. It emanated, but it didn't separate itself, bring itself away from the source. This is not given a mitzvah Shem Chochma, the name of Chochma. Name does not break it away from its source, but it gives it as an identity of its own. Reb Shlomo, is that clear now?
But is it the same like a table after it becomes a table is the house?
What?
A table after it becomes a house.
Even after it becomes an entity, it's still pointing to its source. This is called Mitzias Shem Chochma.
Yeah.
I really don't know what your question was. I'm trying to explain that we are trying to identify something that comes into being, but still is part and parcel of its source. This is called.
If this is the same thing about table, that even after it becomes a table, still needs the house.
Yes, of course. We said it all the time. That a table outside of the home is not a table. But inside the home, it is clearly identified as a table. Outside of the home, it's a form of a board on four legs. In the home, it's a table. When you see a table inside the home, you say, I know what this is about. You find a table standing in the middle of the street and say, what is this? What is it doing over here? How did it get here? This is the Shem Chochma. The Mitzias of the name Chochma. The term Chochma, that at that point it is totally not suitable to be revealed to the Zulas, because it's a name within a bigger reality. On its own, it doesn't exist. Rak except shebidias atzma yideyas ateva. That by knowing himself, he knows the whole Torah. Which means there is a distinct principle of knowledge. That is the result of the fact that it came forth. The Shem Chochma term Chochma, that name of Chochma knowledge, as a result of that, Chochma had been already identified within the reality, but now from this it came to be the Chochma Atzilus, the Chochma in the world of Atzilus.